visual learning question. So hopefully you either went to Pearson Realize already and took a look at that video on how are fractions related to division. If you did not, please do that so that you can see their explanation as well. I'm going to actually jump down to the convince me question, which is very similar to the solve and share and the look back question that I previously did, but this time our numbers are going to change slightly. If you are following along on your Google Slides, the question says Amelia is sharing 4 slices of cheese with 5 friends, and how much cheese will each person get? So we're going to assume that there are 5 people. So there are 4 slices of cheese, but this time there are 5 people. So automatically, I know that each person cannot get a whole. So in our last problem, because the number of people was smaller than the number of waffles I had, I was able to give everybody a whole first, and then I can do the fractional part. In this problem, it's changed up a little bit because now we have more people than we have slices. Okay, so when I do the number model for this problem, it's going to be 4 slices divided by 5 people, or 4 slices split up between 5 people. So this time I expect my answer to be a fractional part. It's not going to be a mixed number this time. So remember that one of the things that we can do, and what we're going to be focusing on in this lesson, is we are thinking about using drawings and illustrations to help me to solve the problem. So if each of these rectangles represents a slice of cheese, I know that I have 5 people. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to separate each slice into 5 parts. Now remember, they would need to be equal parts because I'm doing it freehand. Obviously they're not going to be equal, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do the same thing for each of the 4 pieces. And then I'm going to number them for each of the 5 friends. So friend 1 is getting that section, friend 2 is getting that section, friend 3, friend 4, and friend 5. So I know so far, if we focus on friend number 1 is getting 1 out of the 5 pieces that I cut that first slice into. If I continue that with all of the other 3 pieces, friend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, friend 1 is getting 1/5 of this slice as well. And I keep doing that for the other 2 slices. Again, friend 1 gets 1/5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 friends, and friend 1 gets 1/5. So if I think about it in terms of an addition problem, and I'm still focusing on friend 1 is getting 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5 of the entire 4 slices of cheese. If I think about each friend and what their portion is, I would take friend 1's total, and I would say if friend 1 gets 4/5, that means friend 2 also gets 4/5, friend 3 gets 4/5, friend 4 gets 4/5, and friend 5 gets 4/5. So now I have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 fifths between the 5 of them, and 20/5 simplifies down to 4 slices because 20 divided by 5 is 4. So that's a way that I can check my work. Obviously, I can also use multiplication. If I say friend 1 gets 4/5 and there are 5 friends, I do my multiplication. 4 times 5 is 20, 5 times 1 is 5, and it gives me that same answer of 4. So again, all I needed to do was I needed to draw it out, and remember the big important part here is When I'm looking at the division piece, I'm not basing it on the total number here. I'm basing it on the total number of what makes one whole. So one whole piece of cheese, split 5 ways, each friend gets a fifth. Okay, that was the convince me. I'm going to now jump over to the guided practice. So on the guided practice for questions number 1 and 2, they want us to just write division problems using the fractions. So we don't have to solve anything. They're just basically asking us to identify how we would write these problems out. So for number 1, they want us to explain how to write 3/10 as a division expression. So if I have the fraction 3/10, how would I write that as a division problem? Well, really, 3/10 is a division problem. It's 3 divided by 10. So if I were going to write it out, I would write 3 divided by 10, or 3 divided by 10. So either one of those would be acceptable. For number 2, they're asking me to do the same thing, but this time they're giving me 2 divided by 5, and they want me to write that as a fraction. So if we go back up here, and I said this one would be 3 divided by 10, I'm going to now take what they gave me here, 2 divided by 5, and I know it's going to be 2 as my numerator divided by 5 as my denominator. If you go back to when we first started doing fractions, one of the things that I told you with the fractions, and even when we did division, this is a way to write a division problem. So if you picture my 2/5 or my 3/10 as the fraction and you knock it over on its side, so if I take that 2/5, for example, and I knock it over on its side, it ends up looking like this. So if it just kind of does a side fall there, my 2 is dropping here, my 5 is dropping there. 2 divided by 5, 2 divided by 5. Okay, so just 2 different ways that they're asking us, one going from fraction to division, the other going from division to fraction. That was number 1 and number 2. For number 3, they gave us a number line, and on your Google Slides, I actually left the jumps that they made. So it looks like this, and it's a number line that goes from 0 to 3, and we have the numbers 1 and 2 in the middle there. And based on the jumps, the question is asking us, use the number line below to show 3 divided by 4. So here's my 3. 3 is the number that we're starting from. So if I go from 0 to 3, what they want me to do is they want me to divide it into 4 equal parts. That's where the jumps come in. So when I look at all of the lines that make up that whole, I'm jumping 4 different times. So you have to figure out where I'm jumping so that I can evenly split that up 4 times. So they went from here to here. So we went 1, 2, 3 lines. Then we went from here to here. It was 1, 2, 3 lines. From here to here, 1, 2, 3 lines. And from here to the 3, 1, 2, 3 lines. So if I did that 4 times, I had a portion, a portion, a portion, a portion, 4 equal parts, because remember I said there were 3 lines on each one. And their question was, what fraction would go there? So I know I have my 1 here, so it's from 0 to 1. This is my 0. This is my 1, just so you can see it a little bit better. And my line that they're asking me about is right here. So I know if I'm jumping from 0 to 1, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, which means I took 3 out of 4 jumps to get from the 0 to the 1. The next part, even though we're not starting at a whole number, it's going to be the same thing. I went 1, 2, 3 jumps out of the 4 that make the whole, and I continue doing 1, 2, 3 jumps, 1, 2, 3 jumps. So my arrow is pointing at the 3/4, and again I have 4 of them, so it would be 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4, 3, 6, 9, 12 fourths. 12 divided by 4 brings me back to my 3. So it's just another way to show you how we can divide something up. The beginning, we divided waffles, we divided slices of cheese. You can divide rectangles, circles, whatever you find is easy. Sometimes we can use a number line to help us do that as well. Okay, and then moving on to numbers 4 and 5. For number 4 and 5, they want us to write a division expression for each fraction. So those are exactly what we just did in number 1. So if I have 1/9, and my second one was 7/8, remember 1 divided by 9, or knock it over on its side and it looks like that. And when I say it again, I'm saying 1 divided by 9. So if I write it in this alternate way, 1 divided by 9. Looking at this, I know again that my answer is going to be smaller than a whole, because we're not doing 9 divided by 1. We're doing 1 divided by 9. So think of a candy bar. 1 candy bar divided by 9 people. Each person would get 1/9. Same thing with the 7/8. I'm doing 7 divided by 8. So I'm doing 7 divided by 8, or 7 divided by 8. That is number 4 and 5. And then finally for numbers 6 and 7, they are asking us to tell what fraction each person gets when they share equally. So for number 6, 5 friends share 8 apples. 5 friends, 8 apples. So we're doing 8 apples divided by 5 friends. And we can obviously simplify that to 1, and 8 minus 5 gives me 3, and 3/5. So 1 3/5 per friend. If you want to draw out a picture for that, sometimes rectangles, I know apples are not rectangular, but sometimes rectangles are a little bit easier to work with. So if I know I have 8 apples, and I'm splitting them between the 5 friends, remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everybody gets 1 whole. And then for those last 3, if I split each of those last 3 up into 5 pieces, friend 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on for the other 2. I focus on friend 1. Friend 1 gets 1 of the 5. They get 1 of the 5. And they get 1 of the 5. So they're getting their whole apple and 3/5. That's where we get this 1 3/5 from. Again, I also took it from simply doing the division problem. 5 friends, 8 apples divided by 5 friends, and then simplify. Okay, and the last one is 2 friends share 1 bagel. Now this one you should be able to just visualize in your head, because anytime a friend of yours wants to share something, you know that as long as you're sharing it equally with them, each friend would get what portion. So here's my bagel. There are 2 friends. There's 1 bagel. 2 friends, 1 bagel. Am I dividing 2 divided by 1? Am I dividing the 2 friends by 1? Or am I dividing the 1 bagel by the 2 friends? So obviously I'm dividing the 1 bagel by the 2 friends, which means each friend gets a half. So my fraction is 1/2. I would be doing 1 divided by 2. 1 whole divided by 2 people is going to give me a half. Okay, that was the guided practice for lesson 9.1. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask. Also, as a reminder, I would like you to go to Pearson Realize and watch the visual learning video. It is sometimes helpful to see them explain it as well, because it's being explained in a different way sometimes, and sometimes things that you don't understand